All right, so we are back, and the technical difficulty was me. Somehow, just sitting here, I muted my speaker, so I couldn't hear anything. So you probably could hear Ann and I, but did you hear us? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Anyway, figured out the technical problem. We are back. Let me get back to sharing my screen, and we'll continue with what we were talking about. So Ann, here we are. Just a quick wrap up on.
Yeah, just pull up, just go ahead to presentation. Yeah, flip it over. We'll just, in
Okay,
the
so go ahead,
essence of
Ann, take
time.
it from
Yeah,
here then.
yeah. So the last leadership differentiator is being open to giving and receiving constructive feedback. And I put the word in constructive because it has to be, feedback has to be more than just either you did a great job or you did a lousy job. There has to be some element of development in there to make it really meaningful and worthwhile. And a lot of times to get folks to really take in what it is you're saying and do something with it, right? So constructive is a very key word in this uh, particular phrase. And as I was thinking about feedback during training, immediately I thought of two areas. We need to get feedback during the training as we're training. And then of course that end of training evaluation or feedback that's typically directed just for us and for us to use. So as we're looking at ways to get feedback from our participants, the first thing is just to pay attention to their nonverbal cues.
Yes.
You know, how many people are looking down and they're on their phone, and they may look up from time to time, but they're back down on that phone. So to me, that tells me they are distracted just a little bit. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail about how you separate people from their cell phones because that's very painful. There are ways to do that.
That's one of our special training secrets. We just
Yeah,
can't share.
yeah.
Just can't share that right now.
So, they're not, do they have their arms crossed and they're leaning back in their chair and their heads turned in such a way like, okay, go ahead, try to teach me something I don't already know.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of nonverbal behaviors that you can pay attention to. The trick is that you have to look at more than one behavior. Okay, so for example, the arm crossing, people, sometimes that's just a natural position. They just sit with their arms crossed. That's just comfortable to them. That's how they process information. It could be they're just cold. It could be that they're bored. There could be that they're being a little bit obstinate about what it is you're trying to share. So you need to look at more than just the arm crossing or the way they've got their head tilted. But overall, in general, paying attention to those nonverbal behaviors is a good place to start. A second way I thought of is just to ask them. There's nothing wrong with, you're delivering content, yakety yak yak, and then maybe you're getting a sense from nonverbal cues that folks aren't paying attention or maybe they seem confused, but they're not asking a lot of questions. So it's a good time to put a pin in it and say, look, let's just take a minute to kind of recap what we said. I want to make sure that you've got a good understanding of what we've been talking about. I want to answer any questions you may have. There may be some that are confused, so let's just clear that up before we move forward. To me, there's nothing worse than getting to the end of a training and feeling ambushed that people didn't get it. And you see that on that end of training evaluation. She was clueless. She didn't know what she was talking about. This has nothing to do with, what I have going on at work. It's like, well,
just so you know, Anne very rarely gets that kind of feedback. I have picked the world's worst trainer to be my partner. Just kidding.
You do get some stuff that you feel
You do. That's right.
If they'd have just offered that, or if you would have asked, because remember, communication is a 50-50 proposition. If you don't ask, they're not going to tell.
Yeah.
So taking a minute or two to kind of recap, ask questions. And then this was what I was going to say before you muted me about bringing out the best in others. This tip that I got from Mary Barbara was sometimes I will ask people, directly, like Mary Barbara, what did you think about this? Or do you have any, and you get nothing, crickets. And Mary Barbara suggested to me many months ago, sometimes they don't want to talk to you, but they will talk to each other. So when you take a minute to ask, are we all on the same page, or do you have any questions? If you sense that that's not working like you wanted to, have them talk to their partner and then report out to the group at large. And I started doing that. It's so easy. It's like, why didn't I think of that? That it makes a world of difference. It keeps the energy up, it keeps them engaged, and you learn something along the way. So look for the nonverbal cues, ask at some point or periodically throughout your training if they have any questions. Do they understand, how to apply what you're sharing with a situation they have going on at work? And then the last one is sort of taking that and expanding it into a full-blown activity of a table discussion. We've talked about A, B, C, and D over the last 10 or 15 minutes. Now in table groups, I want you to think about and come up with examples of what we've talked about, where you can apply what we've talked about, and what do you think some implications of that are. So now it becomes an exercise. But if you're going to do that, then you need to make sure you plan for that and allow enough time to do it, that doesn't push you over that deadline. So during the session, go ahead.
Am I supposed to be switching slides?
No, you are not.
You'll tell me when. Okay.
I'll do this.
Okay.
I'll do this.
Excellent. That is going to make me happy.
That's a bigger visual.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, the point of doing this during a presentation is so that you don't reach a point of no return where there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's right. One of my goals as a trainer is to make sure there's at least one thing people can take out of the room and put into practice the next day.
Yeah.
And I feel bad if I feel like that hasn't occurred. During the session, trying to get that feedback enables you to make sure they take out at least one thing.
Yeah.
So the second area we've got during the training, these are some things you can do. It's that old favorite, the one I look forward to the most, the end of the training evaluation. And I think, I hope I'm not alone. I really don't enjoy those things. My experience is either the evaluation is too long. It's like the front and the back, and you've got a scale of 1 to 5 and all this stuff. And people are, to me, my impression is people are so anxious to get out of the room, to get back to their routine, that they don't fill them out properly. Right. So on the front, they may say something like, oh, she was just adequate on that scale of, whatever this portion of the content was. On the backside, typically, or somewhere on that evaluation form, you're asked to be specific. You don't get the specifics. So if I was just adequate, okay, can you tell me in what area specifically, and give me an example maybe of when I was inadequate? So to me, unless they fill them out properly, they're just hurtful. No.
Well, I was going to say that this does always, whenever Ann and I talk, whether we're doing something live or it's just the two of us talking, we do have moments of therapy, because there is, anybody who has to get up in front of a crowd and deliver information, your ego is always at play. I don't care how awake you are, whatever developed you are, we're humans, and ego is always going to be part of the gig. And so learning to manage our egos, which is probably a different topic here, but it's true. I want to do a good job. Who doesn't really want to do a good job? And so at the end of the day, when 20 people are now evaluating whether or not you did a good job, and they're like, well, she was okay, I'm like, I was really giving it my all. Now look, if I wasn't giving it my all, if I was giving a C performance and you all tuned into that and said, yeah, you were giving a C performance, I accept that. We also all have off days. I have days where I'm coming down with a cold, days where I'm getting over a cold, days where I didn't sleep well. we've all got that going on. So when you're the person in the front of the room but you feel good and you've put a lot of, as Ann says, heart and soul into the presentation, and what you get back is like, it was all right. You just kind of feel,
Adequate.
my God, what more could I have done to make you
I know.
happy?
I
The reality
know.
being, of course, we can't make you happy. Only you can make you happy. Only
That's
you can
true.
prevent forest fires, Ian.
But I still,
Only
I mean,
you in the entire world.
I know. And out of the 120 evaluations that we've received over this series, I just don't look at them anymore. I mean,
You know what I check for? For me, the thing I'm really checking for now is food, room temperature, any feedback they've got about the physical stuff that
I
I
got you.
actually could control. Like, do we need to be more on top of getting the air on or the air off? And, anything that I can really do
Mhm.
something about. I mean, some stuff you can't.
Well, I
We
like
need
that you
more
said,
windows. Well, what can I do?
yeah, I like that you said that because feedback needs to be about something over which you have control.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a really good point, uh,
We thank you.
enabling me to move forward in this
Oh, good.
conversation.
Shall I move the
So,
screen now?
not yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna
It's
try
one
to do.
o'clock.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do a segue here.
Excellent.
So we're talking about that end of um, training
Yes.
evaluation, and there's one tool that I do use practically every single time. And now you could change the slide, and
Ta-da!
it's
Aw,
called a plus delta.
I like this.
And this is super easy. And at no additional charge to our viewing audience, it's
That's
yours for
right.
the taking.
And we
You
do
just,
appreciate the $1 million you've already sent.
yeah, yeah. So you can do this in advance, make up a little form that looks much like this, or you could just say, pull out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. At the top of one column, put a plus, and I'd like you to identify at least 3 things that worked very well during today's training. And it could be logistics, it could be content, it could be my delivery, just anything. It's open. And this thing is anonymous, by the way, so they don't have to put a name on it. Um, the delta, the triangle, think of at least 3 things that you would change or I should change in order to make this training more effective. So as I've been using this for years and years and years, I've gotten some excellent ideas on both columns of the page, and people are just delighted. They write down some things, they leave it on the back table, and out they go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a very useful tool. I use that in conjunction with that more formal evaluation that we were just talking about a few seconds ago. So, I mean, it's up to you, whichever you think is going to be the most helpful to
I
you.
think
But
to your point, because the training that we're doing is through an educational institution, the educational institution has to collect and data, and they have
yeah,
to demonstrate the need, the success. They have to share the data with the company for whom we're doing the training. So there's a lot of, those number people, the accountants essentially want to see the numbers. They want to
right.
see that there's been a change, and I, just tooting our own horn here, the company immediately saw an increase in or a decrease in people leaving the company. They saw an increase in keeping employees
Mhm.
and a decrease in people quitting within 1 or 2 months after this training program started. And there's only one way that they can, so they do need the metrics to keep track of all
Right.
that stuff. But to Ann's point, for trainers, it doesn't mean anything to us, right? So if you get feedback from training, and I will say, I know that we're running out of time here. The one thing I wanted to say, Ann, about bringing out the best in others, uh, is also if you are a subject matter expert and you are giving a presentation, the feedback you're getting from people, typically questions and stuff, wait till the end. Although you as the expert can say, I'll take questions all this whole time, we can talk about it, or I'll just take your questions at the end. So gauging feedback might run a little differently, and bringing out the best in others in those presentations might run a little differently, because people are listening, because they're judging what you're talking about as, is this something we want to do? Is this a product we want to invest in? Is this the next move that we make? What have you? So I would say maybe during those times, try not to get too distracted by their physical feedback at
Yeah.
that moment, because there's a
Right.
lot, it's a little bit different the way that those presentations are running. But I would say
Right.
in this case, Ann and I are talking about true trainings, true workshops where you have created the data, you're teaching people this, that's something they're going to use back at their desk. And we will definitely touch on presentations when you're presenting to a group in for a different outcome, because you wouldn't ask this at the end of those types of
Right.
presentations. What
Oh
could I
yeah,
have
you
done
would.
better? You can ask your mentor or somebody in the meeting in a private
Yeah.
conversation later, what
Yeah.
can I do? This
Yeah.
is really what Ann and I are focused on, those stellar presentations.
Yeah.
So
So go ahead and click
one more.
because it
I
occurred
just,
to me.
if I haven't told you how great Ann is at PowerPoint, you are getting to witness her amazing ability. And anybody out there, just a side note, if you need somebody to help you with PowerPoint, Ann is your person, and you can reach out to her through the Frost Advisory page. All right, Ann, sorry, go for it.
Oh, that's okay. I've used this tool for so long, but it wasn't until recently that I've really made the connection with this delta column. So there's a term called feed forward. And we have
Hmm.
feedback, we have feed forward. So feedback talks about what went on in the past, right? Feed forward
Mm-hmm.
is the delta here. What would you change? You're going to maybe do this again in the future. So what can you do differently in order to make improvements or develop your material or concept, whatever,
I love
for the
that.
future? So I wanted to just introduce that. If you
I
want to
like
go
it.
ahead and flip the slide, as we talk about, what is that feed forward, and think about, what a difference it can make in terms of your momentum as a trainer, your engagement, your energy level. If you have those suggestions in that delta column that can sort of spur you on, it's like, well, yeah, I could see how making this slight change or tweaking this, or, oh, I forgot to include that bit, uh, can make this much improved, then it keeps you focused on the future, focused on your vision, accomplishing the mission of why you were contracted to deliver this training anyway in the first place. I don't know, it just keeps me more positive looking versus hung up in the past. The past is the past. There's really not anything I can do from it but learn from it as I go
That's,
forward. So I just wanted to introduce that. I'm not sure if folks are as familiar with feed forward. I think in 2000, Marshall Goldsmith wrote a book. He's a management and leadership um, expert, and I've forgotten the title of his book. I could put that on our Frost Advisory
that's right.
page.
Yeah, that's right. You sure can.
I will do that. And
Oh, good.
he was kind of the first one to introduce this concept of feeding forward. That yes, people need to know, the implications and impacts of what went on in the past. That's important information, but we can't just stop there. We need to take it forward and how that's going to make a difference in performance, behavior, engagement in the future.
What I love about this idea, Ian, is to your point, the positivity of it. We can look back and think about all the things we did wrong and then beat ourselves up the whole drive home about what we did wrong. But that is not necessarily going to make us better trainers. And really, it is taking that information and turning it into the positive and knowing that we can change the very next day. And to your point, we can even change right after lunch or after the next
Yeah.
break.
Or
You
after
have, oh, go
this
ahead.
live feed.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's really as you become more comfortable in your skin as a trainer and you start to understand the amount of power you have over what's happening and the amount of control all you can control is how you respond to what's going on around you. But you do have that power. And so I really love that feedback is fine. We need to know what didn't work well, but then how do we take that and move forward? And there is a great video that we'll talk about this another time on self-awareness. And the woman who does a TED talk on it, I can't think of her name at the moment, is typical of me, can't think of people's names, but she does talk about the importance of looking back, but really the key to success is looking forward. And I'll leave it at that for now. And this is so great. I'm so glad you brought up the feed forward. And of course, as usual, the magic work that you do creating PowerPoints, you find this beautiful picture that's so light and beautiful and inspiring in so many ways. Just starting with this person's fingernails. They have the loveliest nails. I'm working in my garden all summer, so my nails are like not in great shape. And so I'm always a little envious when people have beautiful fingernails. But I do love that picture.
Good.
Anything else to wrap it up there? Nope, that's it.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but folks do
And we
probably
wish
have
you
things to
would.
get back to. But just to your point, when you started us off, these three areas apply, no matter what style you have. You could apply these three levels of authenticity, bringing out the best in others, and being open to giving and receiving feedback. And that just to me, enables you to stand head and shoulders above others who may be in tasked with giving presentations or in the training field itself. And I would be very interested if folks who are watching or listening, if you are able to put some of these into practice and you get some feedback about, how it's going, you see a little difference or result, positive result, or even if something becomes, sometimes, well, I tell everybody at the end of a training, we shared a lot of material and the idea is that you're going to put this into practice, but it's going to feel weird, right? I had a golf lesson this week and he changed my grip. It feels pretty weird. And all the worms out there were doing this, because I was hitting a lot of low riders. But anytime you try something new, it feels weird. The point is to keep doing it until you find that comfort level or until you decide, hey, this just isn't working. I need to move on. But give it a try. Give us some feedback about, what you heard, what you put into practice, how it worked or didn't work, or if you have more questions, because we are on it. We will be looking for that and more than willing to answer questions and get back to you as best we can.
Absolutely. I did see that we had 2 likes on our more of episode 3, Maria Asher. A little shout out to Maria and Mary Michael McClung. So thank you to both of you ladies for tuning in, even for a few minutes. And, always feel free to share that we've got this going and that we're looking for, anybody to come on and share any questions they've got, as Ann was saying. The other thing I'd like to do is direct you to our website, Learn, Grow, Succeed Training and Coaching. It's www.lgs, Learn, Grow, Succeed, LGST and C.com. Learn, Grow, Succeed, Training and Coaching.com. You can email us or contact us through the Frost Advisory Facebook page. Any questions you have, any concerns, any fun stories you'd like to share, we'd love to hear everything. And then if you have any questions about any kind of training that we can do for your company, whether it is a train the trainer or come out and present on leadership topics, we've got a list started over at our website that you can look at. You can check out Ann and I's biographies. We're starting a reference or a resource page. So we're really looking to build our followership, build our business, and we are, internationally available. So anything that you think we can do for you, find out if we can. Just reach out to us. We'd love that. Ann, anything else before we end?
I hope everyone has a firecracking good time this weekend. Be
Oh,
safe.
well played. And we'll see you next Thursday. Wait a second. I'm still memorizing our tagline. Dun, 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 dun. And I have to go through all the machinations here of trying to find it. Here we go. Ready? Cool advice and hot topics for stellar presentations. That's us, the Frost Advisory. Kate Jung is going to be so proud of us, Ian.
She is our homework. We're overachievers.
That's right. We're doing it. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Everybody have a great weekend. Bye, Ann. Oh, I can end.